Welcome to episode 6 of All Elite Reviewing. I'm Shameek Ghosh.
And I am Josh Starnes.
And this is the show where we talk about everything related to All Elite Wrestling, starting with Elevation, Dark, Dynamite, and soon to be Rampage in a couple of weeks, really. This is actually episode 6. I know episode 5 was last week, but the scheduling got a little crazy with the Saturday night Dynamite that they had. And then in between, they had a couple again, Dark and Elevation, and then they went back into the usual Wednesday night time slot on TNT for now for AEW Dynamite. So this week we're not going to be talking about each card match by match. What we're going to do instead is really just talk about the prevalent storylines that were on Dark and on Elevation that also led up to Dynamite. Because there are some, believe it or not, there are a couple of unique storylines that you don't really see on the big show that they're really unique to only Dark and Elevation. So one thing, and I told Josh, I was like, hey, Josh, before we get this going, let me talk about this whole storyline that they have going on Dark right now with Jora Joel. And his name is Jora Joel, and you'll be like, hey, I've seen that dude before, right? He was on Dark. He jobbed a couple of times. He had a really good match. Who's really getting good match? With Penta. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Well, his name's not Robo anymore. It's Jora Joel. Now they completely changed it. It's still him because it's still the same tattoos. It's, that's a distinguishing feature on a person, right? According to cops and everything like that too. So of course it's still Robo, and I like that he went with the name Jora Joel, mainly because it sounds ethnic, and it's nice. Me being of Indian descent myself, it's nice to hear someone actually going to like an Indian sounding name, rather than just like Robo, which could be anything, and which Josh actually thought had to do with RoboCop.
No, Penta thought it had to do with RoboCop. It had like one of the best tweets I'd seen in a while. He said, Penta says his favorite movie is RoboCop, but that's not going to stop him from beating the crap out of Robo. This is a better name.
There are a Bollywood movie yet called Jora Cop or anything like that.
That one. So we can just basically think of this as he has taken off the RoboCop helmet, and Alex Murphy is underneath, except it's not Alex Murphy, it's Jora Joel.
Right. And then there's like about 5-minute song and dance sequence following right after it.
I'm down with that.
Because that's how we do things, and that's how we celebrate life. So the thing, and also it's online, but not on any of the shows. If you look on YouTube, Jora Joel has actually been doing promos in Hindi, which is also interesting because let me get to another thing. So India has a lot of dialects and a lot of languages, right? I mean, Hindi is the national language, but within, each state even, there's at least 10 to 15 languages, which means there's like 300, 400 dialects, right? And when I say dialects, I mean like completely different written scripts and stuff, not just like how someone's from Texas and someone's from New York, but they write on a piece of paper, you know what they're saying. It's not like that. So Jora Joel, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that means, because in Bengali, where my parents are from Bengal, it means something like Jora means like Jor means strength, force. So I imagine that's the same root, but Joel is one of those because there's two ones and he spells it Johl. So in that one in Bengali, for us, it means water. So I'm like, mighty water. Okay, that's like rivers, there are rivers in Punjab. That makes sense. The other one is Jhol. Joel means gravy. And so that just makes me
mighty gravy.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't think that's the word. It could be something completely different. But
at least he could be a great tag team member. He's the perfect side. He goes with anything.
Well, then it has to be just curry and rice. There you go. Who Curry Man's an actual wrestler, or was?
That's true.
But yeah, Christopher Daniels, right, for a while.
You know what? Hey, Christopher Daniels and Jora Joel, they could do it. They could bring Curry Man back.
Oh, yeah, back out of retirement, it's a new character, right?
That's right. It's not Christopher Daniels. He stayed retired. It's Curry Man back again.
Yeah, Mr. Patriot. Yeah, there you go. So the thing that they're doing now is that they're actually doing a storyline with the Hardy family office where Matt Hardy's trying to recruit him. He was the thing is funny though, if you saw the first match where Jora Joel lost and then Matt Hardy was like, because Matt Hardy beat him. And then Matt Hardy's like, hey, you can join my team. And I know you're from India and you don't have to carry anybody's bags here, like all this stuff. And I'm like, kind of, like weirdly racist. It's not like you made fun of, it's not like
that's a wrestling thing. That's not just that. That's like the person who's, when you're a rookie in wrestling, you carry the when you're a low card guy, you carry the upper card guys' bags on the bus. You get them water. You do their stuff for them. That's, I felt like I get what you're saying, but I also felt like he's more referring to him as you're just a lowly nobody jobber right now, but you can be more. There could be a
Okay, I
spot
see
on
what
you
you're
on the
saying, but
card.
also, even if it is a slightly racist thing in the realm of wrestling, that's really on the tame end of everything, as we all know,
That
right?
is true.
Yeah,
It's
that's why
really
baseball
inside baseball
like
stuff.
that.
It's
Yeah.
really, I felt like that was like real inside baseball talk, but they do that sometimes. That's very much an AEW thing. But I feel some of that's partly because they want to make it feel, I think, authentic. Like this isn't like just an angle they're doing for TV. This is Matt Hardy, wrestler, talking to George or whatever his real name is, wrestler, about his career as a wrestler. So they want that to make, and also I think they know that AEW fans are, I mean, let's face it, are all smart marks. And the ones who are willing to spend their time watching the dark shows on YouTube are the markiest of smart marks and the smartest of smart marks, and they're going to know what all the inside baseball references are. That's just my guess.
So yeah, so they had the storyline where, and then George, even though he's being mean to him, George Joel at least was like, yeah, but you have to consider it because you get it. And I was like, okay, even though the Hardy family office seems a little full these fucking days, but all right,
No
that's
kidding.
fine. That's fine. Let's do the storyline. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see if they ever follow it up. So this last Dark, I mean, just this week on Monday's Dark or Tuesday's Dark, sorry, they had they had a guy called Arjun Singh come up, which I think is like one of the most generic Indian names. And the guy even had like a pagri, which is like a Punjabi turban, which I was gonna laugh at, but I was actually like, that looked like a turban I'd wear to my wedding.
It feels like he has been on. Am I wrong? It felt like I feel like he'd been on Dark before.
No, because
this
they're
the
making
first
his
time?
AEW debut too. No,
Okay.
I haven't seen him because even his moveset was very like clothesline, body slam. I was a little disappointed. He had a good look and he was acting well and everything, but his moveset sucked. And I just guess just needs to develop one. Well, apparently he was kind of just like a plot device in this whole thing, because then Matt Hardy came up to George Joel again, and I was like, wow, so they're doing this whole like Desi thing like South Asian, because there's also Tamili and Benish. So I'm hoping his name is a play on the word Tamil, and he's like one of the only South Indian Indian wrestlers that's not Punjabi, because like Singh is very Punjabi. Jordan Joel, his real last name is Singh too. Almost every single wrestler, if they're from India, they're from Punjab, which is like just right next to Pakistan is where the people do the Bhangra dancing. They love to drink, they love to fight. I mean, they're known for that, for being very physical, athletic people. People from my side are known for being big fucking nerds, so it's a completely different dynamic. But that's why every single wrestler I see is Punjabi, and so I'm like, here we go with more Punjabi wrestlers. But that's fine. They look like that. They get to be on TV. That's fine. So I thought that's very interesting that they're doing this kind of like Desi storyline with Matt Hardy, and I mean, it makes you kind of want to see what happens with Jordan Cole. Although I still think that he's not going to end up joining Hardy Family Office, because again, that is just way too big. Hardy Family Office.
Maybe
they're not Dark Order, right?
Yeah, but maybe it gives him a feud for a little bit. Maybe it gets him onto TV, especially once they've got an extra hour of network TV and they want somebody on it.
I mean, Hardy Family Office already has Private Party, who I'd rather be faces, so I'd rather not have someone.
Well, you got to think,
you
got to think. Number one, like Butcher and Blade aren't going to be with Hardy Family Office forever. It feels like part of that's just to give Blade and Bunny something to do while Butcher's hurt, and when Butcher comes back, they'll go off to do whatever it is that they do, and that they definitely probably aren't going to keep Private Party there forever either, because Private Party really do probably work better as baby faces, and they're just waiting for them for a turn. So maybe it needs to build up. All right, who's going to be the next part of Hardy Family Office once the current guys have sort of moved on? It does make me think.
If you're South Asian, it's a really good reason to tune into Dark or Elevation, because we just had Jinder Mahal, who had a really bad push in WWE, and then before that was like Tiger Ali Singh and shit. Even Muhammad Hassan was Italian; he wasn't Arabic or anything.
Well, you had the for a while you had the Desi Hit Squad on Impact, for anybody who
did that have Sanjay Dutt, the play from the Himalaya?
Yeah. For a little bit. Well, Sanjay Dutt's back too. He left. He quit WWE as a producer and has now joined AEW as a producer. So he was apparently backstage as a producer on the most recent episode.
Davari's gone now from WWE. He's ready to come over. First is probably close enough. Whatever. That's fine. So yeah, that's all I had to say about that whole thing, because it's really something that you don't see in wrestling all that much, where it's actually like Desi's being used in storyline, but then being Desi is not part of the story. So that's kind of interesting.
Let me ask you this. Let me see what you think about this aspect, because it has been a big story on the business side for the last couple of years on WWE, that they are trying really hard to build out their Indian audience.
Yep.
There has been this talk of a NXT India that is, that's like just like NXT UK is
like the
is
Pittsburgh guy, the pitcher, like
yeah.
Isn't he like he's a WWE wrestler now, right?
Yeah,
the guy
he
who's
is.
just going for cricket to baseball. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
that they were going to do just like that. They were going to set up an NXT studio in India and for all Indian wrestlers, primarily for to build viewership there, because they have a lot of data basically saying like we get our largest global viewing is coming from India. It's almost primarily off of the YouTube clips. We're not able to monetize it very well because they're not purchasing the network or anything, and we don't have a TV deal. So they've been simultaneously working on getting a TV deal for India, creating an NXT India that got like thrown off the rails by the pandemic, but they will probably get back to it. It's something they have said publicly.
And now you have the coronavirus going on in India, so that's probably impacting us shit.
It's going to make it even harder, even longer till someone does something actually there. But they're still trying.
Delta variants, right? Yeah. So they got a lot of shit to go through right now.
Well, they bring it up on like every quarterly call. They even had earlier this year. They had the Super Spectacular show of primarily the Indian wrestlers they do have under contract who are actually here in the U.S. That was filmed and broadcast specifically for the Indian audience. So they made it very clear that's an audience that they're courting and they want to get. Could this be the beginning of AEW making that same calculus? That's an
interesting question, because what you're really talking about, because you're talking about two different separate really properties, right? You're talking about either wrestling in India or wrestling in US for Indians.
Right.
So when you're talking about wrestling in India, I can't see anybody making the headway that WWE has already made within India. That's the thing. WWE has been putting in the work already, and India's very big on brands. Like they're not gonna watch 5 American wrestling shows. They're gonna watch the one good American wrestling show in their opinion. They have some cricket and soccer to watch and everything else. It's not like they're sitting around bored doing nothing. So it's not like we're competing for their attention. Well, I mean, you are competing for their attention really, because they only have time for only one good wrestling show. So, and then you have to get into live events and stuff like that, and that's really how WWE has also done well there, because whenever they've done live events there, from what I've seen, the numbers have been incredible whenever they go over there. So it's going to take a while. I mean, getting the familiarity in with the U.S. audience with Indian wrestlers definitely helps, and so that whenever you go to India and try to make those actual inroads to the actual Indian domestic market, then you can already have that. But that's for now. WWE, I think, is way ahead of them, just because they've been there longer, really.
Let me throw, before we move on to because we do got 2 Dynamites to do. Let me throw another hypothetical on this that popped in my head earlier today. There's one thing we know, and this is somewhere in the future. Let's say especially once you can travel back and forth to India, and let's say like NXT India has actually become a thing. As we know, Vince McMahon is obsessed with the size audiences for his pay-per-views, especially for WrestleMania. It's always, we have more than anyone else. We've had more than anyone else ever before. It's the largest live audience for a sports entertainment event ever anywhere, to the point where they, if you take the WWE numbers at face value, they've had more people at several WrestleManias than at almost every Super Bowl, which doesn't seem likely. The second largest sports complex in the world is in India. It seats, I think, like 130,000 people. Could they ever do a WrestleMania in India just to try to get the largest number ever to not be topped? Well, let's say at some point in the future,
but that's still, I don't even know when like regular sporting events, let alone WrestleMania, is going to be back to normal in India right now. They're still figuring out social distancing thing, because it's just when they do, there is appetite. People like wrestling in India. The other day, even there's a very famous Indian producer called Amir Khan, which has done a lot of famous movies, and there's another movie he's done called Dangal, which is great. It's on Netflix actually, and it's about women wrestlers actually, and trying to compete in men's wrestling, but the father's all like disappointed they're not boys, but he still trains them to be wrestlers, that type of thing. But that was like, I think the most money that an Indian movie has made like internationally in, I think, ever actually was Dangal. So that shows you there's still an appetite. Well, even though those are international numbers, even within India, there's an appetite to watch people wrestle, is what I'm trying to get to. So if you have people, and it's 130,000, like in Mumbai doing 130,000, I think it's easy. You can get cricket games doing that, Right. So you should definitely be able to get wrestling matches doing that, because that's really what you're competing there. And it's popular enough to where you could do it. That's the thing. It's not like as like niche or underground. I mean, people know John Cena in India. They know that. They're not as big as on Great Khali or Jinder Mahal, I think, as a lot of other people think,
Right.
because they still like good wrestling. But yeah, I mean, it's a big deal there, and people like it. It's ever since I was a kid, even growing up, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Actually, I didn't grow up in Houston, but every summer we used to go to in Houston and India to that's how we spent our summers. And it felt like I was talking about Hulk Hogan in both places. So it was like they do have a cultural recognition of wrestling in India.
So like the all-time attendance record, in theory, no one really knows, for a wrestling match is 150,000 people for the Clash in Korea that was done in North Korea that the WCW took. Well, Tokyo Dome, I think maxes out around like 40,000 people. So it's not tiny, but it's not like it's it's ultimately an indoor. It has a roof on it, so that it can only get so big. Versus this was done in this was done by the North Korean government that WCW and New Japan took part in the 90s. And I feel like somewhere in the back of Vince McMahon's mind, it has to rank above. He's got like 150,000. I can top that, pal. But who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all stuff for the future. For now, we're here with AEW Dynamite. There was one other really good, cool, interesting tidbit on the Darks, for a Dark-only storyline that they've been going on for quite a while. The slow dissolution of the Joey Janela Sonny Kiss tag team, and alongside that, apparently just the slow dissolution of Joey Janela, human being. And so as we talked about, he's ditched on his partner, and he's ditched on his partner, and he's ditched on his partner, and Sonny finally had all he could stand and couldn't stand no more, and told Joey in no uncertain terms that he was done. He was done with being his tag team.
Sonny was very clear
trust on him.
Very clear about what happened. And Joey, like, I guess it started with 2 weeks ago or not started, but really, like you said, it's the slow dissolution. Yeah. But I feel like it's more one of those things that they did, then put a huge pause button on for a little bit, and then just all of a sudden unpause it, basically.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's slow. It feels like in the last 2 weeks, it felt like, especially when he came onto this week, and then after what happened last week, and then this week, Joey came with the late save.
And they had a great, after last week where he tried to blame everything on Alex Marvez and it wasn't his fault. And then Alex has come back to once again ask him about his injury, which quickly turns into another discussion about how Joey feels, to which he lets everyone know he's frustrated, Alex. Frustrated.
I mean, the Melon Farm did nothing for him.
Didn't even want to go to the Go-Go, but something is
already old news. And Melon Farm, nothing.
But nothing. So he's feeling it. When he's feeling it when the idea of going back to the Go-Go bars is just not doing it. But you know what? After seeing the way Marvez tempted him with that, I feel like there might be something to it. I think this might actually have been.
I think I kind of want to party with
Marvez is turning out to be a bad influence on the bad boy. I think he needs to get away from him.
After this show, man, hit me up, bro.
But then, yes, of course,
terribly named strip clubs.
We got it. When you look at Marvez, that's the most he can handle. His head would explode otherwise. But then later on, Sonny Kiss had a solo match that turned into a beatdown, and had plenty of help come running out to have the save.
Like man, every time I feel like I'm 5-1 with Sonny, I'm like, this
really, not great. But you're a wrestler. You take your chances. You're one of the boys. And then, of course, who comes out very, very, very late to make the save after everything had been done and there was no one to fight? It was Joey Janela making a lot of mean faces, but Sonny wasn't bowled over by 1 minute. So I guess
there's come on, put it for dukes, and like everybody's already like on the ground or like walking to their car and shit.
Like, what? I can't hear you. What are you talking about?
They're like, I'm in my Uber already, Joey. This match is over.
So I guess there's two directions they can go. Either Joey learns a lesson and starts to turn himself into the Joey that he knows he can be, and they reform, or it gets worse and worse and worse, and we're heading towards a Joey Sonny fight.
I thought you were going to see more like physicality, I guess, between them. Like, I know Sonny pushed him, but I thought that was going to lead to something else, and Joey just let it go. I'm like, okay, I guess
they're taking their time.
A little bit slow burn on that one. Yeah,
they are very much taking their time with that. But
I don't think they're going to get back together. I'm pretty sure this is going to lead to some type of feud.
I would expect so. And usually AEW is really good about doing exactly what you think they're going to do, which is they're straight. Sounds weird. That can sound like a weakness, but it's really a strength, and they do it well. So that leads us into 2 heaping helpings of AEW Dynamite, with Saturday night headlined by the long-awaited title match between Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega, and then into Wednesday night headlined by the equally long-awaited match between Sammy Guevara and MJF. So 2 big storylines stemming out, seeming to stem from Double or Nothing a month ago, that now they're paying off in time for the last matches at Daly's Place, and but in some of these cases, really going back months and months. I mean, the MJF Sammy storyline is really going back at least 8 months at this point. And so lots and lots of build. I do want to point out how weird it is going to be. We've now seen the last 2. Well, they will be back in Daly's Place again, but we have seen the last 2 Daly's Place matches of the pandemic era.
Every time it goes back, and they're like, "No,
we're still there." We are getting ready to see AEW in a new location for the first time in 19 months. I don't think I'm psychologically ready for it. Like, just seeing like all the fans.
What's the difference? Fans chanting in a different location.
Well, because it's a different setup, especially with Daly's Place.
For the other person.
Well, just especially with Daly's Place, which has a weird setup to begin with. So now, once they're back in a 4-sided arena with a hard cam on a regular side and 2
entrances, it has been a little odd lately. Like with the screen being there and the ramp being at an angle, like it's a little odd.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird location, and normally it's like a nice break from the usual, but it has become the usual for so long. Just
like
seeing
Jericho's gonna hide Lucille, like in everything.
Just seeing like fans back for dark matches when they did Double or Nothing was so weird, that seeing them back in like an arena that's not Daly's Place and you can't see the outdoors, people can't drive their trucks up to the arena.
Fans chant, "Marco's gonna kill you." That's what's weird. When there's Marco's stunt match, and then they're like, "Marco's against Will Hobbs," and they're like, "Marco's gonna kill you."
There was also, that was very funny. There was also an equally good chant of "Hobbs is going to kill you" as well, which is in fact what happened, and it was glorious. So one of the great, that is definitely a dark match that you should go out of your way to see. Will Hobbs versus Marco Stunt. It's maybe not quite as good as Marco Stunt versus Lance Archer, but
or Will Hobbs body slamming somebody 10 times in a row, which he needs to come back to, like we keep saying.
They should do that. They definitely need to do that on Dynamite. But there was also one of the best Lance Archer entrances I've ever seen, where Lance came out, did his big entrance. The guy was facing, took one look at him and went, "Nope, I don't want any part of that. That's terrible." He just decided to quit. Walk out of the ramp, go back in the tunnel, give up. Lance didn't want any part of that. He chased the guy down, beat him up in the tunnel, brought him back, and threw him in the ring for a quick blackout. It was great.
I mean, that's not going to work against everybody, but yeah, that's good.
I can get in a way.
It's a jobber introduction. So.
In a way, you don't want to do it on Dynamite because it could lead to lessening, the impact of having a match on network TV. But on another part of me was like, I wish that, only that was something for more than just dark fans, because that was
his title matches to lose on Dynamite.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about these Dynamite shows. Lots of stuff going. Both of these I thought were great episodes. If you had to have 2 episodes to end both your playoff stuff with and your time at Daly's Place with, these were the 2 episodes to end with. Lots and lots of good wrestling. Also, lots and lots of angles being pushed and storylines being able to be pushed. Sometimes an episode of Dynamite is all angles and prepping for something that's going to happen 2 or 3 weeks down the road. And sometimes it's all wrestling because it's all blow off. And sometimes it's a nice mixture of both. They definitely did. They definitely were prepping for both of these shows, but they were also using these shows to continue pushing stuff. So this felt like a nice mix of both. So, which started with a matchup with Hangman Page and Will Hobbs. Speaking of Will Hobbs, and this was a great match. Hobbs is coming along in a really, really good way.
They're letting him talk more, and they're letting him show his personality more, which they should have been doing ever since he joined Team Taz storyline.
Well, I think part of this was getting him comfortable with that. I know if I was like 10 weeks into being
where he is now,
on TV the first time, they're like, "Here you go, you're going to be in front of 1 million people talk." That would be terrifying. So, getting him into a place. But he got to talk twice. He got to come in and promo on Saturday. He got to promo on Wednesday. Hook got to talk a little bit, and especially because we are heading towards some of the breakup of modern Team Taz, because jumping forward a bit, they announced that when we get on the road, we are going to get our first ever FTW title match between Brian
Austin,
Cage
Texas.
in Austin, Texas, technically in was it not Cedar Rapids, but Cedar
the
Hill,
Austin area, greater Austin
area. The greater Austin area. Nobody can afford to put a wrestling show on in Austin anymore. But you can't even but yeah, they're gonna have Ricky Starks, the freshly healed Ricky Starks, versus Brian Cage. And so we're gonna get the
heel and all the time heel.
That's right. We're gonna get the dissolution of old Team Taz and the integration of the new Team Taz, whose new heavy seems like will most likely be Will Hobbs. So this is the time to have him start to be front and center. Yeah. And he's going to be basically taking Brian Cage's place in Team Taz feuds, which means it needs to be tough.
Which is always weird that you had both of them and you hardly ever tagged them up, only until like the last few weeks before, when the breakup was already going on. And I like that tag team a lot, and still was like they should have done.
They have tagged before here and there, usually when they wanted to extend something. I mean, that was the first Sting match, was a Brian Cage, Ricky Starks cinematic tag match, but
I'll count that.
But they don't do it. They don't do it that often. No, what we're going to miss out on is we're going to miss out on the Brian Cage, Will Hobbs tag matches, which we won't get now. Which the one time they did it was fantastic.
That's what I'm talking about, the Cage and Hobbs tag.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Cage and Ricky Starks. Yeah, I know. They did it once, and now we'll never get to. They could have just crushed some fools. I know. And now they're yanking it away from us, and it'll have to be years until Will Hobbs goes off on his own. I know. And they're just like taking turns to see who could wreck the jobber the worst. It was, I know.
Finding broken the most. I mean,
we'll never get to see. I mean, we may get to see it one day, but it's going to be a long time.
No, that's just the sale. I mean, it'll take years for the storyline to come back around. So now we have to settle for just what's going on, but which is still a great storyline.
Yeah, and which led to, and is interwoven without being a feud into the Hangman storyline of getting him back up to his #1 ranking so that they can build him up as a challenger for Kenny Omega at All Out, which it definitely feels like they are doing. So we can finally get Omega Page 2, and Page can win at the pay-per-view that he lost his original first ever main event championship match at. Poetic justice. And,
they set up this whole angle with the Dark Order coming out during Kenny's thing, which first of all,
let's not jump forward to that, because that's no Don Callis. But let's have the second one, because I don't want to get past the the Hangman Will Hobbs match, which was fantastic. This is also the best that Will Hobbs has looked in the ring, even if one spot did get kind of messed up and Hangman busted open the back of his head and it was bleeding. It wasn't bleeding; all that hair kind of stopped it, so you couldn't tell, but you could tell.
That was intentional and unintentional. That was unintentional.
That was unintentional. But they did have like one great spot. I'm kind of surprised. I've never seen somebody do it before. Hangman went for the buckshot lariat, came off the ropes, went flying right into Willie Hobbs, who just picked him up and spine busted the crap out of him onto the floor. That was great. That was a fantastic
Will Hobbs should be doing like what Hakeem Olajuwon used to do. Like, instead of just blocking the ball, how you just catch the ball in midair and bring it down. Like, that's what should be his counter to every move. It's just like, whatever you're doing, it's like, nope, I'm just picking you up like a rag doll now. That's it.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like a bit of the Miro offense, where somebody tries a big piece of offense and it just bounces off of him and he totally no-sells it. And I tell you, actually, that's a match I would like to see in the future, is Will Hobbs versus Miro.
Oh gosh,
that would be a great TNT title match. But Hangman did eventually win, as he must. Managed to get Will Hobbs up into the Deadeye pile driver. He didn't win with the buckshot. He had to use the Deadeye, and he got him up into the Deadeye, which I was amazed, because Will Hobbs has to be
a big dude.
The biggest guy. I think he's a little over 300 pounds. I think they list him at over 300 pounds, so I think he might be the heaviest guy on the roster right now. I can't think of anyone who's actively wrestling. So there were a couple of these. They had a couple of these. There was one during the Penelope Ford match as well, where I was like, wow, somebody's been lifting weights, because that's not something I would expect you to be able to do.
Penelope Ford. Yeah, I was like, damn, you've been working out. Huh?
She got like some up on her shoulders and stuff. I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen her do that before.
That's why we've never seen Kip.
I guess so. She tossed him out the window. And this was followed up, of course, by Shameek's favorite wrestler, Matt Sydal versus Dante Martin,
Gross.
who is still well. They're keeping Matt. They're giving him the wins to keep him strong because he's going to be facing Andrade in a couple of weeks and get fed to Andrade. But you know what? This was a hell of a match. Dante Martin can fly. Matt Sydal can fly. There was one, he came backwards off, Dante Martin came backwards off of the top rope over Matt Sydal's head and then down into, it was supposed to be like a cutter, but he went so far over his head, he basically just grabbed the top of his head and smashed him back.
He had to hold up something to keep from like falling down.
To keep from flying out of the ring. And then he had to steamroll over him to grab the leg. That was great. Yeah, and then he did one sunset flip that was like a literal sunset flip because the sunset was very clear behind him, and he went.
The sun went down.
It was, yeah, it did in fact, and it looked like he went like a full foot over Matt Sydal's head. I don't know if I've ever seen a.
It's like when you get is that a code red or a destroyer or sunset flip?
It would have been I think if you'd been holding on to him, it would have been the thing that would transition to a code red. It was like a code red, except he's not holding on to him, so he just went way.
Is that named after the Mountain Dew drink or not? Code Red? No.
No, I think I would say I think the other way around, except I think not. Oh, this was the other one that made me think of the other match that made me think of unbelievable was unexpected amounts of strength. And talking about tag teams where partners are hurt, but they're giving them dynamite time. Bear Bronson was on the show.
Well, Boulder was there.
Boulder was there in support capacity.
In a while, so. I was even worried with the mask on. Is this a fake Boulder? But no, it was the real Boulder.
It's the real one. Didn't do his friend much help. Tried a little bit, but didn't help against the men of the year, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. And Ethan Page got Bear Bronson, who what is like up on his shoulder for the Ego's Edge.
But every time he does it, it's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Ego's Edge is a tough finishing move to pull off.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just basically like doing just a literal lateral press.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's like 400 pounds of torque right there.
I mean, and then he held it. He picked him up and he held it to get him in position. And then it's not just like, I'm going to pick you up and drop you. Then he has to launch the guy.
Like even when you suplex, right? Like the guy's holding on to you, they're helping you out.
Yeah, he's able to put
all you.
Yeah,
they're basically sandbag. There's nothing they can do. Their feet are off the ground.
Yeah.
So when you do that, that's a shitload of strength right there.
I was amazed because Ethan Page, I know he's a big guy, but compared to the big guys they have on the roster, he doesn't look like one of the bigger guys. So you don't really get a sense of how strong he is.
Yeah. Move over. Yeah.
And they set us up for the continuing, never-ending Ethan Page. I shouldn't roll my eyes. I actually really like the Ethan Page Darby Allin feud.
Man, that guy got so much heat.
Yeah.
I was so surprised at how many boos he was. You couldn't even fucking talk.
That was great though. When he came back out, he was on both shows. So that's what your heel should be getting that much heat. They had Ethan Page on both back-to-back Dynamites.
Obnoxious, but like, man, I guess everybody else thinks that obnoxious too. Damn.
And it really reminds you how much you need fans in the building. You know, I've gotten used to it, and I don't mind as much as other people. But hearing everybody booing him, and him having to go like, "Shut up, I'm talking." That's great. I miss that.
Awesome. As a heel, you're probably like jackpot. Like,
yes, that's when you know. That's when you know you've hit as a heel. It's like, oh yeah, baby, I got it now. I've crushed their poor baby face that they love, and I got it now. So in a couple of weeks, we're gonna be having an Ethan Page, Darby Allin coffin match.
Which, I heard an interesting theory on why they moved the match.
What was the theory?
That because of the disaster that happened in Miami just last week with the building collapsing,
right?
That maybe a coffin match might not have been in great taste to have in Miami at that time with such a recent disaster over there. So that's what I heard, and it makes sense. Either way, they're not having it. They're moving it to what? Fighter Fest?
Yeah, Fighter Fest. So it gives them. That's in Texas. No, that's going to be outside of Dallas.
Oh, in Garland or whatever.
In Garland, yeah. Hey, that's all right. I actually considered driving up for that show. I'm not going to, but I thought about it really hard.
At least you're not from there. That's it.
Yeah. Well, now that I know that they're going to have the Andrade match and they're going to have the coffin match on there, that's going to be great. That's going to be a loaded show.
Yeah, I'll go for the Andrade thing. Another thing with Andrade, I was a little surprised, is that I thought his English was a little bit better than that, but I guess it's not. Now I can see why he probably would need Vic here.
I don't think I thought it's fine. It goes back and forth between English and Spanish, depending on what he's saying, and allowing him to have a smooth flow without memorizing it beforehand. But the topic that always came out of WWE was the reason that Vince didn't give him a big push is because of his English skills and because he couldn't talk. But He can talk. He
I'm
sounds
not saying
like
this
a
is a
star.
big push for this. I mean, look at.
But it was also like
Rashida was champion forever. So yeah, that's
she can talk just fine too.
I
mean, and
that's not important.
But she never did. Yeah, I know they're trying to get him over as a star, and I think they are. But the other thing, especially with WWE is, I mean, the Lucha Brothers are completely over, and they hardly their first promos were all subtitled. It was perfectly fine, exactly. And now they got Penta does a little, and it's fine. And he's got Alex Abrahantes to do more for him, and it works great. I mean, that's actually a great act.
As much as he used to, I kind of miss Alex talking. But
I think it'll come and go. It'll depend on what they're doing. But the other thing was WWE specifically brought in Andrade to help make a star for the Latino audience and the Spanish-speaking audience. So you would think that that would be something that they would the way that they have him doing promos now would be what they would want him to be doing, because that's the specific audience they'd want to reach, and then they just didn't. So I don't know. I don't get it. But I think what he's doing here is great. Having give him
I'm very much
the
looking
first
forward to
match in Garland. Yeah. So of course he came out to make his announcement with Vicky Guerrero that he didn't get to make because he was interrupting the Matt Sydal, Dante Martin entrances, and Sydal came
you need for a feud in wrestling
right past him. It is. But you know what? They made it for a great promo for launching the feud, where he just keeps calling him Matt something. And Alex Abrahantes is trying to tell him it's Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal is like, right. Matt something. So now next week I will have my first match where I beat up Matt something.
Fine with me. That's the best gimmick he's had.
And I think we're going to get a great match out of Andrade and Matt Sydal. It's a great first person to put him with. That's Matt Sydal's position, is to be a great first. I mean, he did the same thing with Christian Cage, to be a great intro match with or early match with guys that they want to put over a little bit bigger. He's a great top of the mid card guy. He's going to put the upper card guys over and make them look great and give great matches. And I expect that we're going to see a great match out of them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's going to be really good. Yeah.
We've also the other there was some continued Young Bucks tomfoolery as they spent Saturday building up to the match on Wednesday. Maybe we just want to dive into that now because it's going to be.
What did you think of the new facial hair?
That is the best heel facial hair I've seen in a long time.
Subtle art of the heel, like just going out looking like the biggest douchebag you can look like.
Well, they've got it. They got the douchebag clothes, so now they got the douchebag mustaches.
Like a cap with a hook or whatever.
Whatever it is. And the way they keep treating Brandon, who they kept telling him to shut up until he had one good line, and that led into the rematch with Penta. And we can just talk about it now because we might as well go back and forth between the two shows. Between these two shows, we got 4 outstanding matches, any one of which I would put as best TV match on Dynamite this year. And that's covered a lot of ground. And they still got 6 months to go, but they put over the match with Penta and Eddie Kingston, who won even with the Bucks trying to cheat their way to another victory.
Yeah, because finally it didn't go their way. And again, I have to point out, Don wasn't there.
Don was not there. Where was Don? Not there to call the match and help them out.
The way if Don was there, maybe they would have cheated correctly. But as it turned out, they didn't exactly cheat because the acid aerosol that Brandon Cutler has got sprayed at Matt Jackson.
And it was so great the way people pointed this out, that not only that, he was so surprised that he hit Matt that he continued to spray, even with the look of surprise on his face. And then even when they knocked him off the apron, he was still spraying out into midair. It was,
we've all been there.
It sounds like this is a comedy match, and there was definitely a lot of goofiness in it because it's a Young Bucks match, but it was great. You had a lot of that standard double teaming and synchronized stuff, but
they didn't
win. Penta and Eddie. It felt like this has to lead to a title match, and we got to be getting close to a title change. The question is just, what team is going to get it? Is it is it going to be Eddie and John, or because what we have now, we have 2 teams smashed together, Johnny Moxley and Eddie Kingston, the Wild Things, smashed together with Death Triangle, and they're using the Death Triangle stuff to come out but Phoenix is hurt and Pac is in England for a little bit, and John is out, so they're having to mix and match. But who gets the real push to be the ones who dethrone? You can make an argument that it should be Moxley and Eddie, who are way over as baby faces. You can make the argument that it should be Death Triangle because either the Lucha Brothers finally get their first run as AEW Tag Team Champs, or that some version of Pac and one of the Lucha Brothers gets it, and that way Pac gets his first title that he really, really should have, because he is one of the bedrocks of this match. And
who is just something, right, for being that good. It's like he needs something for being that good. Yeah. Although the only thing I'm worried about is, I mean, this penchant for injury thing has got to be a little concerning to the higher ups, you know, as far as putting titles on people. So,
I mean, you do what you can do, but it feels like that's, you know, the slow build. I don't think it's going to be on TV. I think that it's going to be something also for All Out, and something to really push All Out with a lot of people in attendance. You know, we talked about how there was only one title change at Double or Nothing this year, and we ended up with all heel champions, and that's to push towards doing probably what feels like doing multiple title changes at All Out this year, and maybe we get both. That the Elite get brought down at All Out, and we get both tag title switches and World Championship switch at All Out this year. So that will be interesting, kind of converging all the different storylines of Jon Moxley, Wild Things, Death Triangle, Frankie Kazarian, the Elite Hunter, the breakup of SCU, and Adam Page, the Elite, all of it into one big night. So who knew that you could do long-term storytelling with major blow-offs in professional wrestling?
Or you just have Goldberg destroy the Fiend's character.
Or you just have Goldberg destroy the Fiend character after building him up for 1 year for no reason in order to get yourself your big match at WrestleMania. And then I banged my head on the table for an hour afterwards.
God, you were so angry that night.
And I don't even like the Fiend. It's a terrible gimmick. But like, Jesus Christ, why? Why would you do a year after spending a year building that up and then just throw it away? It's just so self-defeating. Why don't you just load a gun and then shoot yourself in the foot over and over and over until you've emptied the magazine?
Except that gun keeps producing money at the same time is the problem. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Just can't. I can't fathom why you would. I can fathom why, but you should also, as soon as you think why you should do it, you should also think like long term, this is a horrible idea. It hurts more than it helps.
And that's one thing about AEW. I mean, there have been certain things like why they push certain people that maybe I'm not big fans of. But for most of their booking decisions, I haven't been like, oh my god, that's ridiculous booking. No. I haven't said that. I've just been like, okay, like maybe not the way I've done it, but it makes kind of sense. That's
and every so often when they've
that shit's stupid now.
Whenever they've even done something this question, but you're like, all right, I'm going to see how this plays out. You know, I've got faith that they've got an idea. And so far, every time they have had an idea, and when we've let it play out, it has played out well, versus how many times another company say, let's see how this plays out, and it is dog shit.
And, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but this reminded me something you said the other day, which is like, or just even earlier in this episode, actually, you mentioned how AEW, sometimes they go with a predictable storyline, but they tend to do it well. Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of, and I'm pulling an Eddie here where I keep talking about the old company, but right. Like, WWE, what I used to hear a lot of times that Vince would sometimes just do changes just because like you just want to be unpredictable.
Yeah.
Not that it made sense, but like the day of, he would just change the card because like he'd be like, well, because someone knew what it was and he just didn't want to have like one up on everybody's, whether it made sense or not didn't matter. But he just didn't want to be, it just wanted to be something that no one would expect.
Yeah.
And that was the driving force more than was it logical booking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and this clearly just works better long term. And speaking of stories that they were still building up, on top of all of this other stuff that they were doing and everything they were building, we had more build in the current Best Friends feud with going on also with the Hardy family office, as Chris Statlander came out to have her rematch with the Bunny, which is building off of a match from Dark, where the Bunny and the Blade cheated with some brass knuckles and her Orange Cassidy. So now Chris Statlander had her rematch and beat the Bunny, but there was quite a bit of brass knuckles nuttiness in the middle of it, which then led some more Hardy family office guys, including TH2. We almost forgot that TH2 is also part of the Hardy family office. But had them come running out.
The thing is where Hardy family office, after every match, she comes out and beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, like, she stopped trusting those guys.
It sounds typical, but like not every heel stable does that in AEW. So it seems like they're the ones that are doing it right now.
They are. It's their turn.
Yeah.
Which included getting Blade the brass knuckles to lay out Orange Cassidy, who sold that about as well as I've seen anybody sell. They got a nice close-up of his face on the canvas, and he's like, I don't know if the camera's looking at me or not, so I am dead. I am dead. I am wide open, dead
Part
to
of
the
the time
world.
he's actually injured, but yeah.
That's true. which is going to get us another one of those. I think it's a Fighter Fest. It's either a Road Rager or a Fighter Fest match. They're going to do a mixed tag match.
Mixed tag?
Yeah,
The
Orange
mixed tag
Cassidy
is
and Chris Statlander versus Bunny and Blade. So
That's
I'm actually looking forward to that. I thought the Statlander
and Bunny and Blade are a real life husband and wife duo, right? So they have chemistry with each other.
Yeah.
And I think Bunny does the psycho, like crazy woman wrestler thing very well. And it's going to be fun to see Orange Cassidy in front of another crowd again. So
yeah, well, they're going to want to make sure that they have him out the first time they're on the road in front of a crowd because he's going to get the big crowd reactions. I did particularly like the way when he took the brass knuckles. He took them and he put them in his pockets and his pants and put his hands in.
I like how
they're
like, no, regular pocket. It's still there.
That is how you sell these things. But I thought Statlander and Bunny had a lot of chemistry together. I thought their match was actually pretty good. We for as long as people spent time running down the AEW women's division, it's actually turned out it's been getting better and better. Even the people who've been part of it since day one are having better matches than they had a year ago.
Yeah, Riho had a match this week on I think Elevation, and I was like, "Oh, I guess Riho matches. They could be anybody."
It's Riho versus Kylan King gave her, which it feels like it was giving
Tall versus
it's a nice match. That's a rematch they should do on Rampage or one of the TV shows because you can have the big little match. Well, I felt like some of that was they were doing that specifically to give Kylan King like a long match in front of cameras to get her ready for TV.
Had some time on it.
Yeah. Well, she's someone they've been spending a lot of time with. She's in a faction with Red Velvet and Big Swole, so it feels like maybe they want to. Yeah. So it feels like maybe they want to start having her on TV. She's been on Dark for a long time, so I think she's as ready to be on TV as she's going to get. And actually, she has been getting noticeably better over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really watch her matches because it's usually her versus against a jobber or something, but I like watching Riho.
Well, it was interesting because it was for a long time, she spent a good 6 months. She was the jobber. She was there to get beat by, the regular roster people. And then it slowly, subtly switched. And now she's the one who's going out and getting wins, which another thing that makes you think, all right, they're thinking about bringing her up to Dynamite. So she's definitely kind of one of those ones to watch. Who should be on one of the TV, either Dynamite or Rampage soon. Just like young Julia Hart and the Varsity Blondes. We got a really, really nice promo from Brian Pillman. One day I'm going to make.
And he did. I still think Miro made him look very good in that match.
Miro made him look very good.
The bottom line is he looked good in that match.
Everything about Miro has been on fire since they gave him the TNT title.
Ridiculous.
This was one of, we keep saying great promos. This was one of his best promos for the week before the match. Getting between the righteous man and his reward is like getting between the cleaver and his meat. Oh, that's so good. And he thanked God for giving him a flexible life.
Butcher and Blade have like any type of.
Well, Butcher's hurt, so somebody's got to take that over. And he was. You thank God for his power and his hot wife for being flexible. These are the greatest promos. Pillman's promo, I'm going to make you a Brian Pillman. I'm going to make you a Varsity Blondes fan. I'm going to get the love of the Varsity Blondes. We're going to enter your heart. But then they had a great match. This is the best Pillman has looked. They had the Blondes themselves had a really good match with FTR about 6 months ago where FTR made them look really good. But this is the best Pillman has looked on the show. Miro really made him look. They had the entrance was great.
Surprised he got as much in on Miro.
Yeah, I think that's the most anyone has gotten on Miro in one of these defenses. That's what I'm saying.
He made him look really good, man. Yeah.
It feels like they're thinking really hard. Like we think Brian Pillman could be a top baby face. So we're going to see how he does. We're going to see if the crowd reacts to him if we give him a lot in one of these matches. And his promo skills are there. His promo skills. And we've been talking about this ever since that Dark Side of the Ring episode that he was in a lot of, like that. If you're smart, you're going to take the goodwill from that and you're going to give him a push. And
when he's like, I didn't have any parents. Smart marks like us. They're like,
I really like the intro, putting his glasses and jacket on Julia Hart like she was the little sister.
On the Hollywood Blondes, and are you telling me that Grip is stunning Steve Austin? Come on, man. If he thinks he's his daddy, you can't have Griff be stunning Steve Austin.
Stunning Griff Garrison.
Austin wants to be stunning Steve Austin. So
I know he didn't. Well, actually, he did want to be stunning Steve, just right up until he didn't. So I don't think so. Not unless we get to a point where someday Griff Garrison comes out and tries to call himself Stone Cold Griff Garrison. If that ever happens, I will. I'll say you told me so. But yeah, great promo from Miro on the Saturday show. Great match from Miro and Bryan. That's the second of like the 4 great matches. So before we go full sail into the rest of Wednesday, got to talk about Saturday night's main event, which right up until Wednesday was my favorite AEW TV match this year, which was Kenny Omega versus Jungle Boy. And you want to talk about Miro giving Brian Pillman a lot. Kenny Omega gave Jungle Boy everything. It's like he went out there and he was like, mission statement, make Jungle Boy a star. And
December
that was it.
41.
Pretty much.
I want this MCU run through. So like December 7th, 1941.
Like that's what like they were like, this is what we're gonna do. And so that's what they went out to go and do. And he gave Jungle Boy everything. And very little in the way of shenanigans. It was just a straight up wrestling match. You know, you had a little bit with the Good Brothers, but then they got chased off, and then the rest of the wrestling match
it didn't affect the finish.
Clean fit. Didn't affect the finish at all.
Yeah,
clean finish. I think people would. I mean, Jungle Boy wasn't going to win, but I mean, you couldn't have another fuck finish. People were just getting so annoyed with all this.
He's actually pretty fucking good too. That's
like
he's not just a bullshit.
You're going to make him look weak and look like a bullshit champion if he can only ever win.
With shenanigans. Which is kind of what the Bucks are kind of doing these days a little bit. But
yeah, a little bit. I mean, they'll win, but yes, your heel needs shenanigans, but you got to remind people every so often that they can do it themselves.
There's a reason he's in the spot.
Yeah, or else it doesn't mean anything when he gets beat. They're like, oh, well, you just stopped his helpers. Like when somebody finally beats Miro, it's going to mean a lot. Because beating Miro is going to take a lot.
Like this level, but like Undertaker freak type shit. I mean, that's how dominant he is. That's how he's supposed to be booked. Because the guy sells that character so well. So
look at his win-loss record.
It should be a big fucking deal, right? When you beat Miro.
Well, he's 2-0.
That rub.
When he wrestles guys, he destroys them. And even the people who get like a lot on him, it's still like he doesn't use any shenanigans. He doesn't have any helpers. He doesn't cheat. When he beats a guy,
it's not like surprisement or anything. It's just like you surprised in for you got it off and said for 5 minutes.
Exactly. I'm surprised you survived.
Game over. That's it.
And when he beats a guy, he beats a guy. So when somebody finally does beat him, it is going to mean a lot. And I think, and it'll mean a lot for Miro too, because also I'm pretty sure what it's going to mean when they finally take the TNT title off of him. It's going to mean, all right, now we're going to push him into the main event picture. And it's going to be time for him to go. We're going to want him to go for at least one world championship challenge.
I'm ready for this ride right now, but like, man, I keep thinking to the future. Like when he gets ready for that world title, what that's going to be like. But
that is a pay-per-view. That's a pay-per-view level main event. You know what my guess is, if it hasn't occurred to anyone they thought of, because if they're already thinking towards Adam Page world title run, they've got to be thinking around towards one of his challengers. So my feeling is like they're already penciling somewhere down the road Hangman versus Miro for the AEW championship for pay-per-view as a pay-per-view main event. And I think that's a pay-per-view main event. That is a pay-per-view main event.
Yeah, because they always keep Page around the world title. So it's not like Page will really challenge for the TNT title anymore.
No, he's not going to. It's going to be the world title. Well, what it feels like, because, when they get to that point, they're like, all right, we've got to be able to sell pay-per-views on Hangman Adam Page versus someone. So who is the someone that we can match him with? People are going to be like, I'm going to buy for that main event. Because everybody knows Kenny Omega versus John Moxley is going to sell. And everybody knows Chris Jericho versus Cody Rhodes is going to sell. Is Hangman versus X going to sell? Who can we put Hangman?
Well, Hangman for Miro was a money match right there.
I think so. I think so. So I'm looking forward to that. We also got a great preview interview from Inner Circle and Pinnacle as we build towards FTR versus Proud and Powerful, where they brought Conan out. Conan to face down with Tully Blanchard. They had a really nice back and forth. Conan was getting salty, telling him.
Conan took a couple bumps too. Right?
And he did. Took the spike pile driver. I didn't think he would do that, but I guess he's down. He's getting this liver replaced.
Tully's weirdly it makes me think that Tully's either younger than I think he is, or he's just way more fit than he should be.
I think he's way more fit than he should be, but it was good. It worked. It worked really well.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like Conan, if you need with Tully there, Conan's gonna have to really do stuff in the ring, man, because Tully's been capable.
Well, the two matches,
dude, and he's not like Arn. He's more useful than Arn Anderson.
the two big hit. I mean, well, we always talked like the first year that Tully was around as a manager is always like, well, why is Tully a manager? We never let him speak. But now as part of the Pinnacle, they let him speak a lot. Even with MJF around, they let him speak. As a manager. Yeah, very much so.
Managing Ron Spears and managing FDR, I think he did a good job. And having both those characters come out of the Pinnacle, pretty good.
And also,
it's like group if you think about it.
It is. It's like three groups jammed together, which is fine. I'm perfectly fine with. But also, it's, you know, out of all the matches that the singles matches they're planning on doing from the Pinnacle feud, you know, the two I most look forward to are MGF versus Sammy Guevara, which we got, and Proud and Powerful versus FTR, which we've never seen, and I think is going to be a building match. They're building to it. Well, there's going to be a 6-man of Jake Hager and Proud and Powerful versus Wardlow and FTR, which I think will be very good. And then long term, just a straight up tag versus tag. I think they're waiting for. I think they've started treating FTR like MJF, like although they do wrestle on Dark quite, but they had like a couple of good tag matches. But you're right,
they haven't been on as nearly as much as they used.
Well, I think they try to make it more of an event. Like, all right, FTR is going to come in, they're going to wow you, and they're going to crush somebody. So it's going to be an event when they wrestle. It's going to be like, oh wow, FTR is going to wrestle. I have to tune in for that. And the record speaks to it because like their tag record is still 17-1, one loss ever to the Young Bucks for the title. And so I think it speaks to how well they're positioned in the company and how much the company values them. But I also think it means that when they finally do get to do the versus Proud and Powerful, I suspect FTR's big focus on that will be, you know, Kenny Omega, like they're going to be like, we're going to make Proud and Powerful look better than they have ever looked before. And these are guys who are already good workers.
Yeah, had a great Proud and Powerful in that same group too, although they probably have a little bit more matches than FTR at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, but also,
slow down.
A while, it's going to be a big deal whenever they get back together. And the promos have been very good intensity from everybody. So yeah,
they had a great promo this week. Their Wednesday promo with Jake Hager was actually leading the promo, and he did a good job. But then they had like a great line: "You made two mistakes. First, you pissed us off. Second, you pissed us off." And that was great. That was a great line. Santana's a great promo. Ortiz is good, but Santana's great.
Right. Although I still think the best line of the week I think I heard was from Excalibur when what was it? I think Penta did the ball stomp move from the top rope.
Yes.
He said finishing his perineum.
He's used that his perineum. He's used that a couple of times, especially on Penta matches. I've heard him use it a couple of times, especially on Dark, but it was still good. So there's just a handful of pieces left for Wednesday. Because there's one more. I don't know if there's anything else I could say about Omega versus Jungle Boy, except that it was fantastic. And now it seems 50, like they're going to make sure.
50 wins surprised me. I was like,
that's
50
right.
Wins? I was like,
that's right. He was back.
To get him to 50 wins after he, lost the title match. Mm-hmm. But I was surprised that he wrestled 50 matches. To tell you the truth, I was like, I mean, as you. It's not like you ever ignore him or anything like that, but like it's not like they don't push him. He's not in your face, He's not like pushed as much as the other guy. But the fact that he's already had 50 matches.
They mentioned before also that he has also wrestled more matches than anyone else. That they called him the Iron Man. That he works and works and works.
Man. I mean, shit.
So one thing I did notice is that's also we started off the Wednesday show with another or the second match I think was another Jungle Boy match for him to knock up his 50th win, the first wrestler in AEW to get to 50. Is that we talked for a while about even leading into after his Double or Nothing win that where's Jungle Boy been? They've been working hard with Darby Allin, they've been working hard with Sammy and MJF and Orange Cassidy, but Jungle Boy's disappeared. He's only on Dark. What's going to happen with Jungle Boy? He's going to cool off, but not now. And they always said they were going to wait for his push till there were fans in the building. And now there are fans, and they're going.
And he's over.
he's over. He got a great match. I got a feeling like Jungle Boy is going to be on TV every week. And we can now see like the homegrown guys that are like Orange Cassidy is going to be on TV every week, or as close as they can get. AF every week, Sammy every week, Darby Allin every week, Jungle Boy every week. All 5 of them on Wednesday in front of fans. As soon as they have fans, they make sure we're going to have all 5 of you guys, and you're going to be wrestling and doing great stuff.
Right.
And we'll talk about the rare MJF wrestling match we got. But
part like from Stereotypes or something like that. Because I was like, where does Christian fit into the whole like Jurassic Express thing now? But
Yep.
then I guess now that his mother, he's part dinosaur, his mother's side. That
I
kind
guess
of,
so. Well, I mean,
That's the
it's a
thing.
goofy company and they do goofy stuff, so why not? But you know what? He came out and they continued that Hardy. We talked about big matches, but with also continued stuff. Hardy Family Office came out for the beatdown, but Christian Cage was there, just following up again, continuing on from Double or Nothing, and we also continue the Christian Cage Matt Hardy feud, which I'm assuming is going to culminate in a Matt Hardy Christian Cage match at All Out. Maybe they might try to do it for TV before All Out, but it feels like they're building that really slowly.
Right.
So that seems to be my guess, which is good. I mean, you can't get more WWE than for those classic Attitude Era fans than Matt Hardy versus Christian.
And Matt Hardy's he's actually been in wrestling matches. Like, he's not just like the guy who's like the head of the faction. Like, he's been like, again, he has his George Hill like storyline going on, right?
Yeah.
So
He comes out and
wrestling
wrestles.
going on right now.
And he wrestles on Dark, and he promos on Dark all the time. He's like touching every part of it, and he's on BTE. He touches every part of the whole thing. So nothing behind him.
Yeah, which is actually court in the wrong context. But
So, before we get to the final match, the final of the big four. We also had.
What about the Britt Baker match?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying, like, we had the thing that I was both looking forward to the most and dreading the most, which was Britt Baker and Reba versus Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero.
Completely unnecessary, by the way.
Well, it was like when they said, and we said this last week, when they announced it, I was like, this is one of the few times where AEW has announced a match that I have no interest in seeing. And I really had no interest in seeing it. Great. But it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either.
I could have done without it. I didn't hate it. But
it was, well, they got to build up the Nyla Britt. They got to build up the Nyla Britt feud.
Table without a match.
And no, they got to get people ready for the championship match that's coming up. Yeah. But they can't have the match before.
And Rebel got injured. I heard they got injured. So what was the point of this? That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but her injury wasn't something that had anything to do with the match. I mean, she dove in to break up a pin, and somehow she managed to dislocate her knee while diving in to break up a knee. So, well, she's apparently been like getting herself into bed. She's in the best shape she's looked. She looks the best she's looked.
This could have been like a darker elevation match. It didn't need to be in Dynamite.
No, I thought it was better than that. Well, you know what? What I also said when we announced this is like when they announce these things, they have a plan for it, and it's better than it has any right to be. I thought this actually was better than it had any right to be, which isn't to say it was good, but it was not Britt Baker and Penelope Ford and Rebel versus, Big Swole. There was nothing embarrassing in it. It was there. But there were a few things.
Those are your standards and the bars you're comparing it to. Then
well, when they said it was a tag match that was going to have Vicky Guerrero in it, was immediately the standard I put to it. I was like, this has the possibility of being an all-time train wreck, but it wasn't.
The only thing about that match was like because I watched it on a tape delay, so I didn't get the world famous picture during the commercial break, and it looked like there was a point where Vicky, like when she came in, she started doing a chest shake. Yes. And then I was like, oh no. And then she started climbing the turnbuckle. I thought she was going to do a frog splash. But then,
it almost looked like it. It looked like she was teasing the frog splash. Then with the commercial breaks, I didn't get to see what happened. Well, see, I watch it on...
I wanted to see that.
That's why you should watch it like I do. I watch it on AEW Unlimited on Fight TV. So the stuff that's on commercial, I can just... For the international audience, you just get to see it with the announcers. So it's just part of the match.
Is that additional cost on top of my existing cable bills? That's kind of the issue.
It is. But you know what? It makes it better, especially sometimes where you have like it made the blood and guts match when people complained about stuff they missed. Like when I watched it 30 minutes straight through with no breaks. And
I had many commercial breaks that they did for that type of match.
No, well, it was long.
Also,
it had like 2 or 3 because it was long. But you know what? The stuff that actually had with Britt and Nyla was good. It had a fantastic spot where Nyla did her big spot where she hangs her opponent up on the rope and then jumps up and gives him the flying knee. And Britt sold it better than I've seen anybody ever do it. She like came flying off that rope head first and then bounced and landed. That was great.
Yeah.
The rest of it we could have done without, but that was great. We got the first. It achieved its objective of giving us a taste of what the Britt Nyla chemistry was going to be like.
Also, the crowd doesn't even care that Britt's a heel, by the way.
No, I know they can't just flip a switch and turn her baby face, but she is, for all intents and purposes, she's going to get cheered the way like MJF does. She's going to get cheered. She'll get booed when she needs to, but she's going to get cheered most of the rest of the time because
people courtesy boo MJF still, but I don't think people courtesy boo Britt anymore. They just cheer
barely.
Yeah.
If you put her with the right baby face, they will boo her. Like if they put her in a match with Thunder Rosa, they're going to cheer Thunder Rosa and boo Britt. That's a very good point. It's when you do the kind of the heel versus heel thing. But in this, she is definitely the baby face.
Right.
And they are going to be super happy to watch her win. And at some point soon, they need. I know we've talked about it. Is it before or after they get the title off of her? I think before. I think they should switch her baby face before they get the title off of her. Because I think she'd be a great baby face champion. But it's tough because
before they do the first show, would be like a very like marketing convenient time to do it.
Yep. Yeah. But it's hard to do that and do the Thunder Rosa rematch too. So there's lots of options. You just depend. I'm sure they have a plan. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And that also finally brings us to the other great cheered heel, MJF, Sammy Guevara. We talk about how MJF does not wrestle very often. Because they tried.
But when he does, this is the type of matches, and this is why I keep complaining that he should be on, because this is the type of shit I want to see more.
I think in a lot of ways this makes it better.
Started out technical, then it got into pipeline stuff.
Well, it was very much. It was very much like the match he had with Jungle Boy last year at Double or Nothing, where it starts out all mat wrestling and chain mat wrestling, and then it gets crazy, and then it goes back to mat wrestling. But I think this is why they're smart to make you wait. Because when he does wrestle, it feels like an event.
Yeah. But I think that you're taking for granted a lot of people's patience with this. For a lot of, which I'm not saying should you have this much patience or not. But that's a typical lament I always hear is that the people who aren't into MJF say that because they feel they haven't seen him enough wrestling.
Maybe, but
it seems like that's going to change pretty quickly now because this match, right, which was awesome. Yeah.
This was probably his best TV match. I mean, he and Sammy had some strong chemistry. It might be his best.
Better than him and Jericho.
Yes, better than him and Jericho.
That was
he and Jericho was a pay-per-view match.
Yeah,
I think, and
Jungle Boy, that was a very good match.
I think him and Jericho was probably. I mean, him and Jungle Boy was probably his best singles match, his best match. I can't think of one.
This was up.
The Cody match. The Cody match was good, but it wasn't great. Like the Jungle Boy match was really, really good.
Really.
This was better than the John Moxley match.
That was good too.
Yeah,
but there was a lot more. The contrast in styles is a big thing too, right?
Yeah.
You have a ground guy versus a high flyer, which is kind of also what Jungle Boy did, except that Sammy's moves are a little bit on another level than Jungle Boys are right now.
Yeah,
not much.
They're smoother.
But slightly, smoother, and they're more exciting moves. The 630, like all the type of the destroyer off the rope, and even I thought the tombstone, MJF's tombstone off the middle rope was
great. That was fantastic.
Although it's interesting that
when they did the leap, they did the leap from the ring over the barricade into the crowd on the cement. That was crazy. That was like I'm surprised they approved that spot.
That stuff doesn't happen in the Jungle Boy MJF match, but that's where it could get to. But where it is now is an MJF Sammy match, and that's why it was awesome. And
they set it up perfectly with, I don't know if there were plants right there or not, but it started with MJF yelling at the guys in the crowd and then getting knocked over the barricade, and then Sammy flying over it as well, and now they're fighting in the crowd. That is the part where you really need crowds back again to do that. This was a pay-per-view caliber match on TV. And this may have been Sammy's best singles match. The only one I think that might as good or better was his match with Darby Allin at Revolution last year.
There was something weird about the ending though, because it felt like when they did the story finish type of thing when Shawn Spears came out, because that was right when MJF had kicked out of one of, I think, Sammy's 630 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that to me, I felt like, isn't MJF kind of like an advantage at the match? But I also get that it's been fucking forever and that maybe he just wants to get this match over with. Yeah. And so that's why the chair shot matters right then and there.
Yeah.
But that's right. Usually it's when you're
they want to keep Sammy strong. They didn't want to beat him clean, which is fair. They wanted to keep him strong. And they gave, both of them took a lot. and to the point they had to have Sean Spears and Wardlow came out, and you see the crowd was on their feet for all of this,
I like that
and they're
because I want the
yelling at
Pinnacle to
them.
get more credibility as a group, and this type of thing makes them stronger as a group.
Well,
Even
this
though
gave them
probably beat him on his own, but it's nice to see the Pinnacle be part of the team.
Well, it gave the Pinnacle some real heat, heat that they needed. I mean, they were giving Sean Spears the finger. Not so much Wardlow. You can kind of tell that they all really like Wardlow, even when he's cheating and
even when Jim Ross says he's from Pittsburgh, even though he's from Cleveland.
From Cleveland, that's okay. But even when he's like messing with the ref, or he's trying to get the ref's attention and throwing guys around and throwing Jericho around, they were still actually felt like they were.
The referees.
They gotta be. But it felt like they were cheering for Wardlow as much as they were cheering for Jericho during that match. But they were not happy with Sean Spears or any of that. That was some real heat that they got. But
which is good for Sean Spears. So yeah, I always like whenever he's on TV. So
I don't know what match I would pick as my favorite. Like those 4 were all great, and 3 of them were on this one show.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you mean MJF? He'll do such typically heelish things like the rolling out of the ring whenever he can, that type of shit. The buying time, the thumbs to the like this. It's like a heel playbook of what good heels should do. Like, and he resorts to those every match, and that's what I just like. And I think a lot of heels get so caught up in looking cool, where he doesn't necessarily does it. Even though a lot of the shit he does look cool, but you can tell he's there to win the match, and no matter how he does it, and that's all he wants to do. I mean, with anybody else, just an armbar? That's a stupid. I'm like, how do you win with an armbar? That would make it, but he makes it work. Because it looks like a fucking devastating armbar when he does.
Becky Lynch wins with an armbar. That's her move. But yes, not many people do it. Yeah. That was I think it was also Ronda Rousey's as well. But but not many people do it. But
money good.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's a tough one because on the one hand they were great. On the other hand, there's nobody in the MJF Sammy match that is the caliber of Kenny Omega and can bring to a big match that Kenny Omega does. So it's a tough. I don't know which one I liked all 4. The Kenny Omega Jungle Boy, the Young Bucks match, Miro and Brian Pillman, MJF and Sammy Guevara. All 4 of these matches I love. So each of them for different reasons, but all wholeheartedly.
This show, and especially more. I mean, last week's show was really good, but this week's show especially kind of felt like. Because there was a while when the writing kind of hit a sweet spot. And it felt like something fucking cool was happening every week. Yeah. And then, to me at least, it felt like in the last, not very recently, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, for about a 5 or 6 week period where things kind of just stagnated a little bit. Like, we had our feuds, but nothing super cool. It's like things you expected, but good job. But not whoa, man, that was awesome. Like, it felt like it was maybe like 1 or 2 times, like, a month that was happening for a little bit. But now it seems like they're finally getting into where they're getting into strong writing, and you have to think that maybe touring is part of it, where they can write more shows, getting back into Wednesday nights, that type of thing.
Now it's cool thing after cool thing after cool thing.
It feels like there's a lot of good storylines going on. It feels like the excitement is coming back for me for AEW right now.
And the other big thing to think about is also in another 2 or 3 weeks. So as we get to the end of July, that's also when the 90-day non-competes for all the people who got released in April and May. End up. So Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black, Iconics, whatever.
There have been more names that they let go, right? Recently, I can't remember.
Aleister Black. No, it was a bunch of people off of 205 Live and NXT that they were either paying too much to. Yeah, they're like Aya Davari and Tony Nese and guys who weren't getting on big TV very much. They were paring it down.
I think an Indian, one of the Indian girls got let go from NXT or something like that.
A couple of them did. The Bollywood boys got let go. So quite a few. So they're going to be. They won't be showing up anywhere probably till August or September. But the Aleister Black waiting period is right at the end of this month.
So did Andrade have 90 days?
And they gave him a waiver. He requested it wasn't 90 days. No, he requested a waiver and they gave it to him, which is very rare. Apparently they're
still signed by them, right?
Yeah, so they keep posting. Well, they keep posting shared pics of the two of them. They had one of them in the gym where Andrade was wearing an AEW hat, and But there have apparently been some of the newer releases have also requested waivers. I don't know who it was, and I don't know if they got them. But it's starting to happen.
I don't know if they get Aleister Black. I think it'd be a big thing. Good Dark Order. Holy shit!
That would be quite something. So that would be real interesting to see. Like the Buddy Murphy
I guess Braun
match.
I'm not a huge
And the Braun Strowman. So there's word out. Mark Henry has talked very positive. Who brought Braun Strowman into WWE? Has talked a lot about it. He'd like to bring him into AEW. Whether that happens or not, I don't know if it would be a good fit, especially for someone who's been WWE lifer their whole life. But maybe.
And also it's like, I don't know. I mean, he's cool, but like I'd rather see somebody else in that spot.
What can he do? I mean, what? I don't want to sound like the fan who's out there who's just
he's not you can't do the moves that like Ryan Page can or anything.
I mean, he's a guy who you can see how he would really appeal to Vince McMahon. But what appeals to Vince McMahon and what appeals to your average wrestling fan can be very different things. Does anybody want a Vince McMahon wrestler on any other show anywhere?
No.
Why do you think Ryback's doing a
high school
podcast?
Yearbook today, and apparently they called him Flex in high school.
Really? Flex McMahon?
Yeah, it's like most likely to succeed or something like that. It looks so stupid. But it also looks very McMahon. But yeah, you're right. So I mean, I guess we're gonna see a lot of those people come on, or at least
some big surprise. So I think that'll be some of those big happenings and big surprises. So I expect this to be a very eventful summer, very eventful July and August, and All Out right around the corner, Labor Day weekend. Just lying in wait.
Yep, I guess that's the next big pay-per-view, and I guess they haven't really run down the card yet, but they still have some time to build up to that.
They still got some time. I think we're gonna be spending like the next 4 or 5 weeks.
I mean, they're treating every single road show like a pay-per-view almost. Like,
I mean, we got Road Ragers next week.
Everything has a name.
Exactly. Next week they're in Miami. We got the Cody QT strap match. We've got the mixed tag match. We got the coffin match.
Isn't the Cody QT strap match? Seriously?
It is a Cody QT strap match.
Didn't they just do like a fucking bull rope match with Dustin and Nick Camarado?
Yes.
So okay.
Now it's Cody and QT.
Is there an appetite for this? Are people really like, yes, and we need one more of these matches from these people?
Hey, I want to see it. I want to see some more Anthony Ogogo is what I want to see. I know he's nursing an injury. He is nursing an injury because he got like a rib injury that he's got to heal up from, but I'm sure he will be back because they've got I suspect, in fact, that he will end up, considering the last Cody match, he came in and screwed Cody for the finish. So I suspect he will.
That's a good point. Yeah, because lately it's been showing QT and Nick and like the non-Ogogo people.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the point of this.
And Ogogo was like the whole point of this thing. So let's move on.
I'm Anthony Ogogo. This is all I'm saying.
That's not what he sounds like at all, Gov. Exactly he's cool. He's cool, polished, and professional, Gov. Come on, what are you talking about?
Okay, that's not what he was on the mic for Dark. He didn't sound like that. Sounds like what I said.
He's the governor. Come on.
But yeah, it's such a great and original and creative thing.
All right. Hello. Well, I think this is comparatively the fastest we've gone through one of these, that considering that we just did 2 shows and 2 weeks worth of Dark in one episode, that we went a little longer than I wanted to, but still, that was a lot of material we squeezed into this, and a lot.
We streamed some storylines, so we didn't have to like break them up or just like, hey, yo, this is what's going on with this feud, this is going on with this feud. So,
all right. So next week on the road to Miami, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I see an arena that's not Daly's place. I'm just not conditioned for it anymore. I don't know how I'm going to handle it, but I guess
it's going to be sad when you go to Miami. The Rock's not there to go with like, finally The Rock has come back home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not going to hear that because there's no Rock.
So there's no Rock. I'll just have to find someplace else to do it. And also, we inch ever closer to AEW in Houston. They have not announced. It still says on my tickets August 18th. I'm waiting for them to confirm that.
I don't think it's August 18th, man, because I saw an August 11th advertising for a show that was nowhere near Texas, but I don't know. Also, the Facebook group was actually the other day. I think that the Facebook still think it's
August 11th is Pittsburgh. They're doing because
that's what it was.
The 11th and the 13th are both in Pittsburgh, but then it hasn't said anything about the 18th, which was originally the rescheduled date for Houston. And it still appears as the rescheduled date for Houston on AEWTix.com, but they haven't announced it on the show. So maybe it's getting rescheduled, maybe not. I hope not, because I really want to see.
I guess we'll see Britt Baker and Christian Cage in Houston before then at Palooza. Then we'll see at the show.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And I'm assuming Sammy Guevara. So we'll see who else shows up for that.
He's probably just in the crowd. I mean, he's from here, right?
That's right. So, and I will be at Palooza for that whole weekend, July 17th and 18th.
Pushing his great new comic book.
That's right. The Box, number 1.
Fun time, buddy. Fun
Going to
time.
be in comic stores on August 18th, but you'll be able to get an early preview look if you're in Houston the weekend of July 17th.
See, there you go.
There you
There's
go.
your plug.
That's how you do it. Exactly. Not that
Folks,
far away.
right
either.
here in Houston, Texas.
That's right. The home of All Elite Reviewing. And for All Elite Reviewing, I'm Josh Starnes.
And I'm Shameek Ghosh.
And this has been episode 6. Cue the music.